Thank you for joining us for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum where all voices matter. Well, as budget season approaches, it's opportune to check back in with Kevin Page. He is a former parliamentary budget officer, and now he is president and CEO of the University of Ottawa's Institute of Fiscal Studies and Democracy. Welcome back, Kevin.
Good to be back, Tony.
I guess the first sort of general question is what is the federal government's fiscal situation in the lead up to the budget?
Yeah, so it's certainly dramatically improved from what it was just a few years ago when we were having these conversations, Tony, during COVID, during 2020, 21. So we're probably looking at a deficit around $30 billion for 2022-23. And, that's a little over a percentage point of GDP. But it's well down from deficits of like over $300 billion in 2020-21 and $90 billion in 2021-22. So it's actually not a bad. In terms of the level of deficit. Obviously, it's nice to know that we're able to bring these numbers back down dramatically. I think if we look at the framework, we see declining deficits. Over the medium term, I think it will be a challenge to achieve that track, but that's still a pretty good fiscal track going forward.
Yeah. So, I mean, from what you're saying, it sounds like we're in a more sustainable situation. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's certainly more sustainably fiscally in terms of like the medium term track. I think there's still lots of potential downside risks to the economy that could throw us off track. But yeah, it's a lot easier to talk about deficits in the 1.5% range of GDP versus literally almost 15 percentage points of GDP in 2020-21.
So, what does that mean in terms of the path forward? I'm thinking specifically of the impact on the taxation rates that indirectly has an impact on inflation too. What do you see as the impact of the current fiscal situation?
Yeah, I think there are a few challenges, like certainly in the short term, Tony. I think certainly one challenge is like finding the right fiscal stance for this, this current economic context where we see growth slowing. Certainly saw that, late in 2022. We're still dealing with a high inflation. It's declining. The inflation is declining, but it's still at a very high level, much higher than what the governor of the Bank of Canada would like. So I think like an appropriate fiscal stance definitely is to get these deficits down closer to zero as because the economy is effectively operating at trend. And then over the long term, I think in terms of dealing with these fiscal sustainability issues, aging demographics, healthcare packages, it's just again trying to find the right balance so we don't lose the fiscal sustainability room that we have for the long term.
Yeah, are you concerned about some of these longer term trends like the demographics and healthcare costs that are connected with that?
Yeah, I think we've been, going all the way back to your government, Tony, back, in, sort of in the mid 2000s. I think that definitely the yellow flags were raised that we needed to be careful about, fiscal sustainability because of aging demographics. We are aging at a fairly rapid rate, notwithstanding the high immigration numbers that we have. We're getting much older. This definitely puts pressure on certain types of programs, spending for old age security, pension related kinds of programs, but also, I'm now a senior citizen as well. So we tend to put a lot more pressure on the healthcare system. So yeah, this is something that, Treasury Board ministers like yourself, finance ministers, they need to be mindful of as we go forward that we don't see rising debt relative to incomes. But so far, federally, we're still in a pretty good shape.
Yeah, and does that impact on the provincial fiscal situation too?
Yeah, so I think federally we have probably we have a little bit of room with respect to aging demographics when we look at these sort of longer term fiscal sustainability stress tests. A number of the provinces are fiscally sustainable, some are not. Certainly we have provinces in Atlantic Canada dealing with really like almost with significant slowdown in demographics, really slowdown, really flatlining in terms of population growth, and one province actually declining population growth. So yeah, there's some definitely sustainability pressures there. But it's not surprising that we're having these big discussions around healthcare at this time.
Right, exactly. Kevin, we're going to take a brief break with you. Going to check in with some of our sponsors. We'll be back right after these messages.